talking about the Ford Motor Company and their strategic planning process in Europe. Okay, so for the strategic planning process, there are 5 steps. You have establishing the values, mission, and vision, assessing the current reality, formulating plans and strategies, implementing the strategies and plans, and maintaining strategic control. And in addition to the in addition to the planning process, they also incorporate SMART goals. Those SMART goals have to be specific, measurable, attainable, results-oriented, or relevant, and they must have target dates. So, Ford uses the first step of the strategic planning process, which is the vision, and they want to create a sustainable business model that reduces costs and lowers their CO2 emissions by 76% by 2035. So that vision is also satisfying the specific criteria of the SMART goal. Their values are to continue to implement new and advanced technology in their vehicles to meet customer needs, and their mission is to stay true to their quality and effectively serve their customers and their communities. All right, so for the second step, assessing the current reality. So it's not very good in them for Europe at the moment. There is not a lot of demand for electric vehicles, and their passenger vehicle market is also failing. In addition to that, there's still a lot of competition with other automotive companies that they have to face in Europe. So the third step is formulating the plan. They have significant plans in mind. One huge one is reducing their workforce in Europe by 4,000 people. That also satisfies the measurable criteria of the SMART goal. Next, they want to invest in a more innovative hybrid and EV technology in their passenger vehicles. That also satisfies attainable criteria of the SMART goal. And lastly, they want to collaborate with local governments and stakeholders to ensure they meet CO2 emissions requirements by 2035. And 2035 is also a target date for when they want to accomplish that. All right, next they want to implement the plan. So they have started doing that by investing over $2 billion into their manufacturing plant in Cologne, Germany. So with that, they want to focus more on manufacturing electric and hybrid vehicles. And this also puts them at a strategic competitive advantage in Europe. And that also satisfies the relevant or results-oriented criteria of the SMART goal. All right, and then the final step is maintaining strategic control. So as discussed a little bit earlier, one of the ways they've done that is by making investments into their manufacturing plants and retraining employees and restructuring their workforce. Any additional questions? You don't have to be shy. You can ask questions.
Do you think their plan is a value add to the economy?
I believe so, especially in Europe. I mean, at least for them, I would definitely say it adds value. I mean, maybe not for America per se, but definitely in Europe. I mean, at the end of the day, they're chasing profit, so I mean, I'll look out for themselves. So I get it. Good question. Very good question, actually. Anyone else?
I have a question. By focusing on smart vehicles going to electric to hybrid, is it a high demand for those type of vehicles in Europe right now? And what would be the strategic selling point to get people to want to buy those vehicles?
So currently, there is not a lot of demand for them. I know in America, it's a lot different, but in Europe, they don't really seem to care for them. I mean, for that, I tend to think of like Chrysler and how they manufacture their vehicles. You know, like they make the small little Italian cars like Fiats and stuff. So in terms of EV vehicles, not much of a demand for them. Now, the article I found, they didn't really discuss much on how exactly they were going to go about that, but I could definitely find an answer for you.
So are they manufacturing these vehicles in Europe because of cost, and they plan to bring them to America since the demand is not high there in Europe?
No.
So this is for the European market?
Correct. Yes. Strictly for European market.
Oh, okay.
I mean, like, you'll probably see, I think our neighbors next door, they actually have I think it's a hybrid Mustang, that Mustang truck. So, I mean, as you can see, they're used here, but.
So if the demand is not high there, why, do you know why they chose to manufacture those vehicles then? Is it to increase the demand? Is it to, like?
Well, I think their overarching goal really is to try and reduce their CO2 emissions, which is why they're more so moving towards the electric vehicles thing. I think, I think that's something like more so the government's established and they're trying to follow it, but yeah, not too much clarity on it, but.
Okay.
Who else is in demand with these hybrid cars other than Fords?
You said what?
Cars.
You said what else is in demand, or
Who else? Who else? What other companies that are invested in these type of cars other than Fords? GM, Chrysler.
Yeah, GM, Chrysler. Yeah,
They are.
yeah, yeah. Like it's a little unrelated to this, but I actually read yesterday that Stellantis is starting to do that. So Chrysler,
Okay.
they're kind of doing the same thing as Ford. We're trying to meet CO2 emissions targets and stuff. So.
Okay, you said there's not a high demand for the electric cars.
Correct.
Okay, do you know what the problem is with those cars, or?
The article spoke about it briefly. So from my understanding, I think it's more so that people just don't really like electric vehicles in Europe. You know, it's like different tastes. Like for us as Americans, we probably don't like Fiats, right? You know, the small little, I think they're ugly, but the small little ugly cars, like we don't really like those. That's more like Italy. Whereas on the other hand, we like electric vehicles. That's a hot selling thing here. So.
Well, I have heard that, you know, one of the problems is a lot of people don't have those,
Stations.
that they hook up in their house, and they're worried about the car actually stopping somewhere and not being able to hook it up, or.
And you know what? I actually, unrelated to this a little bit, but I actually read the other day in one of my other classes that in 95% of the states there are, or I think it was 90% of the counties in the country or something, they actually have electric vehicle like chargers there now. So I guess it's starting to become more relevant. But.
Does Ford have competitors in Europe?
Yeah, Chrysler, GM, so Fiat, Toyota, you know, all the major players you would think of, they compete with.
But won't these cars still also have gas?
The hybrids will, yeah,
Okay.
but again, you know, they're trying to move towards not having gas
power.
power. Yeah.
Well, I noticed they build a lot of stations for electric vehicles.
Yep.
In a lot of different spots. You can see them all over.
Yeah.
Matter of fact, my buddy Wes has one, and he put one in his house.
Yeah.
So they're all over.
Yeah, it's a new thing now. So.
Not something I want.
Yeah, I mean, I don't really care for it, but alrighty. One last question. Take one last one.
Okay, I have a question. With the cost of electric vehicles, what would be the selling point for manufacturing those overseas, as far as not trying to corner the market in America first? Because you know, you have Tesla, which is probably the name brand of electric vehicles, just because they were the first ones to kind of concept out there floating. So with, I would say, the cost being that you're manufacturing overseas, you have already competitors in Europe, such as Volvo, BMW, Mercedes, so forth and so on. How would they get a competitive edge in the selling point if those manufacturers or those car companies are selling electric vehicles there and they can build them for cheaper because they don't have to import?
That's a really good question. Wow. Well, when I read about it more in my supply chain management class, hopefully soon, and when I start working for Cummins, hopefully I can get an answer for you. So
All right.
I'll keep that in the back of my mind. That's yeah. All right. We'll scan the room one more time. Thank you.